And welcome to FISM News. I'm Samuel Case.
I'm Renata Kiss.
And tonight, Trump and Harris face off in their first debate.
Meanwhile, ABC is accused of being biased in favor of Harris.
And Americans honor the 23rd anniversary of 9/11. All right, well, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris duked it out last night in their very first presidential debate, with controversy surrounding the moderators taking center stage last night. But first, looking at the candidates themselves. Donald Trump's main goal was to tie Harris to President Joe Biden's unpopular policies and also highlight her far-left positions. Take a look.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs. You believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do
Meanwhile,
that.
Meanwhile, Harris's goal was to clarify her own policy positions, which have been rather vague since becoming the Democratic presidential nominee.
I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do.
Now, as you just heard, Harris still left her policies rather open-ended, but while she might have not been too successful at explaining her positions, she was very effective in undermining Donald Trump by distracting him with personal attacks.
I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics.
Trump took the bait nearly every time and was left on the defensive through much of the night. But that wasn't just because of Harris, as he also faced repeated fact checks from the moderators, where, well, Harris received no fact checks or even any follow-up questions.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals.
Migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it
and said
they said we didn't have standing.
Fraud.
And that's exactly what made conservatives upset last night. The former president's son, Donald Trump Jr., said, "Weird how the hack moderators are only fact-checking Trump and allowing Kamala to lie nonstop." Tulsi Gabbard, who has recently endorsed Trump, wrote on X, quote, "This debate is 3 versus 1. The ABC moderators clearly shilling for Kamala Harris." RFK Jr. agreed with these assessments when he said the debate was clearly biased.
We had moderators who were clearly biased, who were constantly fact-checking Donald Trump. But none of these kind of whoppers that the vice president was saying.
Megyn Kelly and the National Review's Rich Lowry echoed the observations. Lowry called the moderators a disgrace.
I've never seen anything quite so biased at the presidential debate level.
To fact check one candidate and never fact check the other. She did the Charlottesville lie, the both sides are fine people lie, no fact check. She did the bloodbath lie. He clearly didn't mean that, that the country is going to be, there are going to be riots in the street if he's not elected. It was an economic statement. no fact check. So the moderators were a disgrace.
The Hill reports that while conservatives mostly criticized last night's debate, liberals considered it a win. It was the exact opposite of how the parties felt about the previous CNN debate that resulted in President Biden's withdrawal.
And with Trump on his heels most of the night, it's not all that surprising that many viewers saw Harris as last night's big winner. Here's a CNN focus group immediately following the debate.
Erie residents, again, most important state, most important county in that state. We asked for a show of hands before the debate who hadn't made up their mind yet, but thought this debate may determine where they would go with their vote. To start with this debate, who do you think won by show of hands? Former President Trump. I'll give it 4, but tentative. 2 over there. What about Vice President Harris? More hands.
Those results were also mirrored by polling from the typically Trump-friendly Trafalgar Group, where 55% of swing state voters said Harris was in fact the winner, compared to 42% who said it was Trump, though some undecided voters do say that regardless of Trump's performance, his policies have won them over.
I think it's important to remember that we are voting for the leader of our country and not who we like the most or who we want in our wedding party, but who is actually going to make our country better. And we're in an incredibly unique situation where we've had both of the candidates in office before and we've gotten to see what they would do. And when facts come to facts, my life was better when Trump was in office. The economy was higher, inflation was lower.
Following the debate, Reuters interviewed 10 undecided voters. 6 of them now plan to vote for Trump or are at the very least leaning towards voting for him, saying Harris's policies are still too vague. Only 3 say they would now vote for Harris. Meanwhile, Trump still might have a chance to redeem himself as the Harris campaign is now calling for a second debate. Trump said he might be up for a rematch if it's on a fair network. Meanwhile, perhaps the most strange moment of the debate was when Trump claimed that migrants are eating pets in Ohio. To find out if this is in fact true, we go to FISM's Ian Patrick.
Well, if you happened to catch the full debate yesterday, chances are you might have seen the couple of times that former President Donald Trump mentioned certain conditions going on in Springfield, Ohio, regarding Haitian migrants.
You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
These comments received some strong reactions from both the ABC moderators and Harris, but the question still remains, is any of that really happening? And unfortunately, the answer depends on who you ask. But before we get into that, let's have some context on this. The town of Springfield, Ohio, has taken on about 20,000 Haitian migrants currently under protected status because of the chaos in their home country. This group of migrants is just a fraction of Haitian migrants in America with similar protections, which were granted under the Biden-Harris administration. But still, a group of 20,000 people moving into any neighborhood is enough to at least create some logistical issues. And these were actually brought up by Ohio Senator J.D. Vance months ago.
Springfield has seen a surge in population through immigration that has significantly impacted our ability as a community to produce enough housing opportunities for all. Springfield's Haitian population has increased 15 to 20,000 over the last 4 years in a community of under 60,000 previous residents, putting a significant strain on our resources and ability to provide ample housing for all of our residents.
But lately, a new problem appears to have developed. Now, some reports and even some citizens are saying that these migrants are creating unsafe conditions in their town. Some say that a few migrants have even been seen killing pets or wild birds in public spaces. Some say they have eaten these animals. Others speculate that this could be linked to Haitian voodoo practice, which, as I said, is currently speculation. But despite the different reasons, citizens seem to confirm that animals are, in fact, disappearing in the area. As unveiled on the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show, residents of Springfield have actually been complaining about such conditions since at least August of this year.
I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into, they flipping cars in the middle of the street. Wherever they're at, that's what they're used to, bro. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them like.
People living their life here the way they did in Haiti. Angry, stealing, polluting, living in filth, and acting like animals. These are not civilized people.
It is so unsafe. I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard. And I can't. Look at me. I weigh 95 pounds. I couldn't defend myself if I had to.
Now, the news has blown up in recent days with many pro-Trump social media users sharing AI-generated images of cats and ducks holding signs to vote for Trump to save their lives. And then Trump himself made the comment during the debate, but he was quickly rebuked. ABC's David Muir said officials in the area actually have not confirmed any such activity from Haitian migrants.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
News from the Springfield area does say that the Springfield Police Division has not received any report on pets being stolen and eaten. The Springfield mayor has also reportedly denied these rumors concerning the Haitian migrants. Other publications, including The Hill and Snopes, seem to agree that this claim of pets being eaten is, quote, unfounded, but remarkably, these publications seem to go against the testimony from the people of Springfield itself. Regardless, the state of Ohio is attempting to do something about the conditions in Springfield, as they are currently unsafe. On Tuesday, Governor Mike DeWine announced a $2.5 million investment over the next few years, meant to expand access to primary care and to provide more state troopers in the area, mostly just to monitor traffic. This is Ian Patrick reporting for FISM News.
Thanks so much for breaking down that complicated and frankly very strange story. Hopefully we get to the bottom of it very soon. And up next, President Biden honors the 23rd anniversary of 9/11. We'll be right back with his remarks and more after this.
Do you want to invest in biblically responsible stocks? Financial Issues can help. For only $132 per year, our team of experts will help you make wise decisions with your money and guide you to successful investments that will not dishonor God. You'll also have access to our Portfolio Tracker tool, which will help you keep an eye on your asset allocations. And our Buys and Sells page, which will give you valuable information about biblically responsible stocks. Being a Financial Issues partner is the best way to invest in accordance with biblical values. Make the most of your money by becoming a partner today. Sign up at financialissues.org. That's financialissues.org.
When I took the test, I knew that I had other options. I was really scared. I know that it's really easy to get an abortion in New York. I've been down the other road before, and it really was a negative experience for me. And it felt like I did it because it made things easier for my partner at the time. And this time I thought, I think I want a different story. I'm just really scared. And she said, we'll take it a page at a time. It felt scary, but it felt like a good thing. I'm gonna have to, if I have this baby, I'm gonna have to do it alone, and that's gonna be really challenging. But I wanted to do it. But I knew that I needed help, and to get around people that would help me, not people who would say, this is a problem that we can make go away. More like, this is awesome, and we can help you make it more awesome.
Welcome Welcome back to FISM News. I'm Renata Kiss. Well, today marks the 23rd anniversary of 9/11. President Biden announced yesterday that September 11th will now be called Patriot Day and the National Day of Service and Remembrance in honor of the 2001 terror attack victims. Biden urged all governors and the American public to join him in today's observance.
This day reminds us we must never lose that sense of national unity. So let that be the common cause of our time. Let us honor September 11th by renewing our faith in one another. Let us remember who we are as a nation.
In New York this morning, the Biden-Harris administration and the 2024 Trump-Vance team gathered at the 9/11 memorial. Harris and Trump were seen exchanging a few words and shaking hands in a moment of solidarity. Lastly, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said in a speech at the Pentagon Memorial that while it seems like more and more people are forgetting about 9/11, the Pentagon will always remember.
And I know that for those whose lives were changed forever on 9/11, it can feel as if more and more Americans are returning to normal life on each new September 11th. But not here, not at the Pentagon, because we remember.
The Pentagon is the last standing building that survived al-Qaeda's horrific attack.
And we here agree with the White House and the Defense Secretary that we will never forget the people who lost their lives on that fateful day. Meanwhile, lawmakers in D.C. heard emotional testimony yesterday from the mothers of 3 Americans murdered by illegal immigrants, each of them saying that their children would be alive today were it not for the Biden-Harris administration's failure to secure the southern border.
This is not a political issue. This is a safety issue for everyone here living in the United States. Not only was Kayla's life put at risk and taken, so many other children and adults were at risk. The Biden-Harris administration is not putting the American citizens' safety first. The United States government must secure our border. We need to properly vet and background check all border crossers. This isn't about immigration. This is about protecting everyone here in the United States.
The hearing was held by the House Judiciary Committee. During the hearing, Committee Chair Jim Jordan accused the White House of purposefully dismantling border protections.
Day one, they decided no more building the wall, no more remain in Mexico while we evaluate your asylum claim, and once you get here, you will not be detained, you will be released into the country. And as a result of that, 10 million migrants have come into the country, 99 on the terrorist watch list. We've lost track, they've lost track of hundreds of thousands of young people who came into the country. And because of all those decisions made, again, deliberately, intentionally, in a premeditated way on day one of this administration, all kinds of terrible things have happened.
Ranking Democrat Jerry Nadler said it was unfair to pin their deaths on President Biden, saying he doesn't blame Donald Trump for crimes committed by illegal immigrants during his time in office.
And in other legal news, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo testified before Congress yesterday about his controversial COVID-19 nursing home ruling. Cuomo was accused in 2020 of mishandling the COVID-19 crisis that reportedly took thousands of lives in nursing home facilities. A Republican-led subcommittee on the pandemic blamed him and his top aides for covering up the governor's mistakes. Cuomo responded by blaming former President Trump for New York's failure.
From day one, he willfully deceived the American people, denying COVID's very real threat, telling us that it was like the flu, it would go away by Easter, it was a Democratic hoax, use Clorox. And his lies and denials delayed our response, let the virus spread, and this country never caught up.
Under Cuomo's March 25, 2020 directive, more than 9,000 recovering COVID patients were released into nursing homes, which led to tragic outcomes. Cuomo said he abided by the Trump administration's CDC guidelines, but his Republican critics blamed the former governor for his poor leadership. Here's Republican New York Representative Elise Stefanik.
After months of inquiry and investigation, we now know irrefutably what New Yorkers have known for years, that Governor Cuomo himself and his most senior aides ordered, directed, and executed this deadly executive order counter to CMS and CDC guidance. Our investigation also reveals, a bipartisan investigation, that the disgraced former governor and his top aides were caught covering up their culpability and guilt to selfishly save their shredded reputations.
More recently, New York Governor Kathy Hochul released a state report that found Cuomo's response to the pandemic rushed and uncoordinated, but nonetheless based on scientific knowledge. And we have plenty more news coming up next, but first, let's go to a moment in history.
Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. Today, let's go back to the devastating terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001. Nearly 3,000 Americans were killed in a coordinated takeover and subsequent suicide mission of 4 hijacked airplanes on the morning of September 11th. 2 planes were taken over by Islamic terrorists and flown into the towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, and a third crashed into the side of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. There was a 4th plane hijacked that day, and many believe these hijackers had another Washington, D.C. target in mind, such as the Capitol building or even the White House. But thanks to the sacrifice of several brave civilians on board, the plane crashed into a field in western Pennsylvania. Let's explore the heroic takeover of United Flight 93. Flight 93 took off from Newark International Airport at 8:40 a.m. on the morning of September 11th, just minutes before the first plane crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in nearby New York City. Sometime in the next hour and a half, hijackers took over this flight as well, and passengers learned of the conspiracy attack against the country. It's hard for us to imagine what these souls were experiencing when they knew what was happening in the nation and that their plane was one of those hijacked. We don't know the specifics of what happened, but we do know from recordings in the plane that many passengers called their loved ones to say goodbye. One of these was a former athlete and a Christian named Todd Beamer. Beamer, along with several other passengers, decided that they would not go down without a fight. They determined that while they would not survive this ordeal, they could attempt a takeover of the plane and maybe bring it down before any other innocent Americans on the ground would be killed. After praying the Lord's Prayer and reciting the 23rd Psalm, Beamer told the others, "Let's roll." The passengers attacked the hijackers and attempted to take back control of the plane. The plane went down in the struggle, and the attempted recapture succeeded. The plane did not reach its intended target and instead crashed into a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. All 44 passengers on board were killed. These brave passengers could have cowered in fear, but they acted with courage on behalf of others, and rightly should be remembered as national heroes. Many hundreds of lives were saved that day because of the courage of the passengers on United Flight 93. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.
Navigating through investment options can be challenging, especially when you're determined to uphold your God-given values. Every dollar you invest is a vote for the world that you want to live in. Let your values guide your investment decisions and help to shape the culture in which we live. Become a beacon of light and pave the way with biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, where faith and finance collide. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Hi, this is Sheena Bird, the host of Financial Issues. The Financial Issues family is so blessed to have saved tens of thousands of babies, all thanks to the generous support of you, our listeners and viewers. For $140, you can sponsor 5 ultrasounds. Please go to preborn.org, that's preborn.org, or financialissues.org and click on the Preborn logo. Save a baby, save a life.
welcome back once again to FISM News. I'm Renata Kiss. Well, let's finish our coverage today, starting with some international news. An Israeli strike in a humanitarian zone in Gaza yesterday morning killed at least 19 people and injured dozens of others, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. That number is disputed by another Gaza agency, which says there were at least 40 deaths. Israel disputes that claim, saying they used precise munitions to target senior militants embedded in the zone southwest of Han Yunis. They add the strike was based on intelligence that the terrorists had established a command and control center in a 16-square-mile area. 3 terrorists directly involved in the October 7 attacks were killed in the strikes, per the Israeli military.
And turning our attention to a separate war where the U.S. announced new sanctions on Iran yesterday for supplying ballistic missiles to Russia. Secretary of State Antony Blinken believes Russia will soon be using those missiles against Ukraine. This comes despite repeated warnings against Iran.
Now, Tehran has long supplied deadly drones. It's built a drone factory in Russia. It's trained Russian personnel on how to operate them. For some time, the United States has warned of an additional threat, the provision by Iran of ballistic missiles to Russia for use in Ukraine. We've warned Tehran publicly, we've warned Tehran privately, that taking this step would constitute a dramatic escalation.
The new sanctions target 6 companies involved in supplying Moscow with those Iranian weapons. Meanwhile, Britain, France, and Germany have all canceled their flights both to and from Iran.
And to close out our show, we have a quick weather update on Hurricane Francine. The National Hurricane Center upgraded the initial storm to a hurricane yesterday as it moved from the Gulf of Mexico toward Louisiana. Tropical storm warnings are in place from New Orleans to the Texas Highlands and the Mississippi-Alabama border. New Orleans is also under a hurricane watch today. Winds in the area are expected to be around 90 miles per hour tonight. The NHC warns of rainfall along the Gulf Coast between 4 and 8 inches, with a possibility of a foot in some affected areas.
And we'll certainly be praying that everyone stays safe down there. Well, it was a pretty big show today, yes. Quite a bit of debate recap. The question now remains, though, whether this is actually going to have any impact on the election at all, because it still remains a very, very tight race, and both these candidates are kind of baked in at this point.
We shall see. We'll see if they have another debate, and we'll see how that goes.
That's the big question.
Right. All right. Well, that's our program for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And please visit FISMnews.tv for more content.
And for any updates until tomorrow night's show, be sure to follow us on social media at FISM News. Or as you know, you can download the FISM app to take us wherever you go. Thanks so much. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow night with much more news coverage.